Hello, everyone. It's Dr. Flora, and this is your week 12 in-person lecture. Some of you are having to miss for quarantine reasons and other issues, but please know that I do expect you, if at all possible, to be in class for our last in-person meeting next week. But right now, I'm going to record the in-person lecture that we're having this week for you all to see. It's going to be me talking a little bit, but also going to be some presentations from the Career Center, and that are really helpful. Today, we're talking about finding your way in terms of a major and just thinking about career things. And for me, I really want you to, I think it's important to know that no one's saying, or if people are saying, oh, you have to figure out exactly what you want to do and you have to do the most lucrative, financially lucrative thing right now, they are mistaken. We're in the midst of a pandemic, and all I want for you all right now is to just think about what it is you like doing at a very granular level, in terms of just like, what are the things I can see myself doing every day, whether it's, working with numbers, working directly with people, working in teams, selling something, all those kinds of things, just really simple things that you think about in your life that maybe you see, okay, these are times in my life where I feel like I'm thriving, or I'm happy, or I'm happy in terms of a major, especially because the reality is, and I'll go ahead and start sharing my screen with you all. Okay, I'm sharing this PowerPoint. The reality is you are going to be the one that has to do that job every day, or that major. And so it's not so important that you pick a major, because that means that's going to set you up to do whatever it is you want to do. What's important right now, and what's important honestly throughout your college career, is graduating college. Statistically, you are putting yourself at a massive, massive advantage just by having a college degree, and particularly from this wonderful university. But what you major in doesn't necessarily shape the course of your life as much as are you putting yourself in position to thrive in different ways? So what that looks like for you may look totally different for other people, and that's okay. And not knowing yet is also okay, especially in this pandemic, but just generally speaking, as a freshman, that just takes some time. It really does. And so today I want you to listen to what Bryce says and then what I say, and just kind of take some inventory of yourself about the things that you are interested in. I'll take myself as for example. Or let's just take 18-year-old Gray, for example. Okay, if I'm a freshman at the University of Mississippi and I want really great job security, and I want to start off really great job security and job placement right out of school, and I want to make really good money, it is very easy what major I should choose. It's very easy. It's accounting. Okay, we have a fabulous, internationally ranked and well-respected school of accountancy. Accountancy is a really flexible degree that allows you entree into lots of different fields. It's great. So if you want those, if you're looking for those qualities in a major, and that's it, then you should pick accounting. Here's the problem with that, though. Again, we're taking me as an example. I am not very good at math. Accounting is kind of like a language, and language is a gift that I just don't have. I tried to take an accounting course in college to get maybe a business minor just to explore it. And I was horrible at it. I couldn't do it. And even if I could barely get by, like, make C's in my major level classes, the reality is I would have, let's say I made it through and I graduated with like a 2.2 in accounting, 2.2 GPA or whatever. That would not be impressive, would not put me in a good position to get jobs. I would have really just hated, and it would have just been a slog my entire 4 years. Probably wouldn't have had much energy to do anything outside of the classroom, do internships, meet people, kind of explore who I am socially, who I am independent of my parents, which we talk about a lot. I wouldn't be able to do any of that stuff because I would have just been kind of bogged down by this thing that I'm not good at. And for me, it was very easy. Like, I loved reading, writing, and thinking. I still do. And I just thrived and felt at home and felt like I was myself when I was taking English classes. And so that's what I did. And I was able to do much better in those classes and have a much higher GPA than I would have in accounting. Was also able to collect a breadth of experiences that made me much more competitive in the job market for the kind of things I was interested in doing than had I stuck in accounting. Now, that's, again, if you like accounting and want to do that, I think it's fantastic. In some days, I wish I was good at that kind of stuff, but I'm just not. That's okay. And you don't have to figure all that out yet. There's still a lot of try and error to be had, but just remember that you've got to pick a major for you much more than it is to suit anyone else. So I'm going to stop sharing my screen for a second. And now I'm going to reshare. Let's watch the first video about majors that Bryce comes up with. Let's watch that together. Okay, here we go.
Hello, I hope everyone's having a good day. Today, we are going to have a conversation about exploring majors and careers and how you can go about that process. My name is Bryce Biddy from the University of Mississippi Career Center, and let's get started. So, true or false? These are some common things that students like to talk about as they're coming into college. You have to know what you want to do the minute you step into college. What you major in defines what you do for the rest of your life, and other people have more influence over what you choose to do as a major than you do. As I'm guessing that you all thought, these are all false. So the biggest things that we just want to get out of the way right off the bat is that you don't have to know what you do when you come into college. For example, I came into this university as an undergraduate, and I did not know what I wanted to do until I was probably a junior. And we'll talk about my journey a little bit along the way and how you can, take advantage of our services, better than I did in undergrad. But we'll get through that as we go along. But what you do, in your major does also not have to define what you do for the rest of your life. And other people definitely shouldn't decide your major for you. They're not the ones that have to go to your job in the future. They're not the ones who have to constantly wake up and do what you choose to do. So make sure that it's something that you're actually interested in. So we're going to look at our roadmap to success, right? We're going to kind of break down this process into steps. And so first, we're going to talk about knowing yourself and your options. And we're going to go into actually how to explore your different options, making your decision, implementing your decision, and then evaluating if you made the right choice. So getting to know yourself. This is a big part, I think, of the college experience in general, is figuring out who you are as a professional, as a student, just as a person in general. What do you value? So if you're struggling with thinking about what major you're looking for in the future, think about what you value. A lot of people come in and say, well, there's not a ton of school subjects that I would, really just loved. We always had those friends in undergrad or even in middle school who are like, I'm going to be a doctor. I know it for sure. That's going to be my profession. And to other people have no idea. I was one of those. I never knew. I just knew that I liked spending time with people, and that was all that I really knew. So, think about what you actually value. Do you value being creative? Do you value money? Do you want, high earning potential in your field? That's definitely okay. Do you want to provide service to other, people and human beings? Do you want to be, in a secluded area where you get to work kind of alone at an office? Do you want to be able to get out and travel for your job? Think about all these different things. Do you want to work in a specific city in the future? Or, I don't really care what I work, but it can't be in America because I have to go abroad. Think about all those different things as you're starting your search. And it will surprisingly start to narrow down what you want to be, what field you want to be in without actually looking at a ton of different academic stuff to start with. So what also are your interests? Start thinking about some of the classes that you enjoyed most. And I think one of the interesting things when thinking about this and reflecting on your time as a student, it's not always the classes that you did really, really well in that you may be interested in most. And that may be true. You may say, well, in my social studies class in high school, I always got like 99s on everything, and everything came really easily to me. And I enjoyed all that material, but I'm not a math person. I always struggle with numbers. Like you may be able to narrow that down. What type of assignments interest you most? So were you a big group project person? Were you able to, go and get a bunch of work done by yourself? Did you thrive in a presentation setting, or did you like better when you could express your feelings in a paper to a teacher? Well, think about that stuff. If you had more free time, what would you do? Would you spend more time with other human beings? Would you start your own business? Think about that stuff. What extracurricular activities have you enjoyed in the past? So were you involved in a lot of sports? Were you in a drama club? Did you really enjoy being in marching band in high school? Were you a part of a chess team? Think about all these different areas and where you really thrived. Or, did you do your own extracurricular activities? Did you, were you really involved in a church? Were you involved in, maybe like a dance team or something like that didn't really involve school? And think about those things as well. And then interesting questions like, if you were at a bookstore, which section would you visit first? Just different areas of your interest can really help you narrow down what you're going to look to do in the future. So also, what is your personality? So you look at, do you make decisions with your head or your heart? Are you a critical thinker, or are you somebody who acts emotionally? There's no wrong answer. There's just different ways to how different people do things. Are you somebody who can watch someone do something once and you automatically have it, or do you have to learn it? You have to study it. Are you an auditory learner where, if you listen to a book, you're going to, retain a lot more of it than if you were to read it and have to read like 5 lines over again because you get so bored while you're looking at the page? Do you enjoy looking at the details of something, the fine details? Do you need to know every little thing, or do you want to see something that's really big picture? All these things are going to help you narrow down maybe what type of job field that you want. So for example, when I was going through this process myself, I knew that, at first I was very interested in marketing because I thought that I was going to be in business. People that my father was in business, my older brother was involved in some type of business field, just kind of like men go into business fields. That's just kind of what my high school brain taught me. And so I was able to start thinking about, well, I don't necessarily have to be in the business field, but I do know that I enjoy working in group setting, and I enjoy human beings. So whatever I do, I have to be helping other people. That's a really broad sense of things, but it narrowed down a lot for me. So, be thinking about those things. What are your skills? So we've talked a little bit about this some, but are you creative? Do you get to, are you really good at counseling your friends? Are you the person that, in your group that everyone brings their problems to? Or are you somebody who loves drama and is surrounded by problems? That can work to your career advantage as well. Are you the type of person who's going to be a mentor, or are you really organized? Different things like that. Be thinking about what your skills are that will help you in your search process. So once you start to know who you are, what your skills are, everything along those lines, you can start making a list of majors and careers that you think you would enjoy. And a lot of people sit there, when they're looking at just the list of everything that's offered at their university, and they may think, I don't know. I really have no idea. I was pretty good at school, or I really hated everything up to this point, but I know that I would like a college degree. Maybe eliminate the ones that you're not going to be interested in, right? So when I was coming into this situation, as a freshman especially, I did not know what I wanted to do exactly, but I knew that I didn't want to do anything involved in science. Nothing against science people, but it wasn't for me. So I could eliminate everything that involved that in that field. I didn't want to do any physics or anything like that, any chemistry. I was done with it. I had my fill of it by the time I got to college. So I was able to pull myself away from that direction, and that may be beneficial for you as well. Circle at least 5 majors when you're looking at a list. We have on our website, you can look at every major that we offer at every different school. And so on the university website, you can look at that. Circle at least 5 majors that you're the most interested in. You can just kind of go from there. Circle the list of fields of study that you're interested in. So it may be that you're able to narrow down to 5, or you may be able to just, everything involved in this school of mathematics I'm interested in, or, I know that I want to be in the school of liberal arts, but that's really broad. So just narrowing down will help your search process a lot. Next, start using resources to find out exactly where you need to go. So what kind of skills or education are needed. So if you figure out, if you have your 5 resources and your first one is a marketing degree, look at with different people. You can look on LinkedIn. You can look at the courses that are required. You can look at course lists. What type of skills or education are needed for people to be in the marketing field. Different types of jobs or specific majors that work in certain areas. So you can look and see on our website, we have what can you do with your major? What can you do? What type of careers can you have? So that's a really good way to start figuring out, look, I could see myself in this role. I think this is the major that I need to be a part of. Also, if you're really money driven, which I think everybody is to some extent, look at the salary ranges. And if maybe you're like, wow, I would love to be an educator because I love people and I love teaching things to people, but I just can't work off of a teacher salary. I'd like to live a different lifestyle than that. That's perfectly fine, but it's better to know that up front. I'm just using teachers as an example here, but I think that it's really important to go into really what salary ranges are looking for, just so you know what to expect as you're getting out of college. And then also the type of companies that hire in that field. So you may find that you really want to work for a certain company, and so to work for them in the future, you need to have a certain degree, and that will help you narrow down as well. And also the job outlook for the field. So ever-changing job market as we advance as human beings, you can look and see, for example, now people are saying we're always going to need doctors and we're always going to need people in the tech field. And so you may say, well, I want to have, a nice, easy job search whenever I graduate. So I'm going to start going in this field. Or, you may look at something else, but it's important to look at the job outlook for the field. So the biggest thing, I think, aside from doing your research beforehand, is starting to get some experience in the fields that you're interested in. So there are a lot of different ways to gain this experience. One of the biggest ways is to have an internship and try something out. So for example, I thought I was going to be marketing all the way, like I've already said before, but one of the biggest things that I ran into is that I knew that a lot of entry-level marketing positions involve sales, and I never had a ton of sales experience. So I got a sales internship before I graduated. I did not enjoy that, and I was able to shift my career path towards the future. But that's something that I would have never known if I hadn't gone into it. So I think it's really important to get as much experience as you can as early as possible. And it doesn't always have to be an internship. There's stuff you can do during the school year as well. You can start doing volunteer work. We have volunteer opportunities all around Oxford, and I'm sure there are some around your hometowns as well. You can start seeing like, oh, I really like helping people in this way. That's a great experience. You can also just sit down and talk with people. So if you have like a psychology professor, and that's maybe something interesting to you, sit down and ask them how they got to where they are. Their job is to educate you, right? So they love having those conversations with students. You can ask them any question under the sun about like, oh, I'm thinking about this. What do you think about that? I'm thinking about, maybe I want to go into this field. What's your experience been? Different things like that. Join student clubs and organizations. We have like almost 400, I think, student organizations at the university with pretty much anything under the sun. So if you're, I keep going back to marketing because that's what I know, but there's a student marketing association that you can join and be a part of, and you can start to really learn about what marketing professionals need to do in the future. So just get as much experience as you can. I can't stress that enough. And it will just be a lot more beneficial for you. So some things to remember as you're going through choosing your major. So choosing any major at all is gonna feel like a risk, but successful people take risks, right? So one of the biggest things that we wanna make sure as the University of Mississippi Career Center is that you don't have a bunch of buyer's remorse, right? When you are choosing your major. We don't want you to regret doing so. I happened to figure out as an undergrad what it was like to experience a marketing degree, to not enjoy it all fully myself, and then to change career paths and go to grad school. But I would have been able to do that a lot sooner if I had sought assistance and not try to do it all on my own and figure it out as a senior. So utilize your resources. I would strongly encourage you to utilize the Career Center and ask questions. We have so many career counselors in the office that are ready to sit down and help you figure out what to do with your future, or are you on the right path if you've already chosen one? But also just get advice from as many people as possible. Everyone at this university is in classes, and their professors are real professional people who have worked in their field in some form, or just had experience in general. So even if it's your EDHE person, you can sit down with them if you've taken that class, or you can sit down with any professor on the sun and ask. You can talk to other friends who have figured out what they want to do or have had an internship and see how that's impacted them. Another thing of advice is to always have a plan B or C. So if you're really, especially if you're really striving, I am going to go to med school, I'm going to be a doctor, I know that I want to be a neurosurgeon. We don't necessarily want you to think negatively, but what happens if your NCAT score isn't high enough and you have to go a separate route? Figure out a plan B and a plan C so that if something doesn't go perfectly your way, you have a backup plan. And then also your goals are going to change over time, so it's okay to change. You may come in thinking, I'm going to change the world, I'm going to be the best trial lawyer under the sun, I'm going to continue this family legacy of being a fifth generation lawyer, and then you may get into your junior year and think like, this is not for me, I'm not cut out for this, and that's okay. And so utilize different resources and the processes that we talked about through this video to figure that out. The biggest thing is, don't be a stranger to the Career Center. If you have questions, go to our website and make sure that you are able to ask us any questions under the sun. You can email me personally at Bryce, BRYCE, at career.olemiss.edu, or you can just email our general email at office, OFFICE, at career.olemiss.edu, and we can answer any question for you under the sun or schedule appointments for you on Handshake, anything like that. Thank you so much for your attention during this time, and I hope you have a wonderful day.
Okay, so that was Bryce on major, exploring your major. Now I'm going to share my screen again with everyone. We're going to look at the PowerPoint. So the next thing he talks about is getting an internship. Why get an internship and where do you start? So again, remember, let's just say hypothetically, you are thinking about being an architect, and you get an internship this summer with an architecture firm, and you realize you don't want to do that. That's still a really valuable experience, because you put it on your resume, and then when you do go for a different type of job, an employer sees, okay, this person's driven, they're taking their future seriously, and they've gotten some experience in a professional setting. It doesn't necessarily have to be the professional setting that you ultimately end up in, but just doing that can be really valuable. So let's hear Bryce talk about that. Stop sharing here. And now I'm going to share my screen one more time, or not one more time. I'm going to share my screen a lot more times with y'all today, but block out of that video. And now we're going to hear from Bryce again right now.
And welcome to conversation about the importance of internships from the University of Mississippi Career Center. Today we're going to be talking about the different strategies for searching for internships and what your thought process should be as you go about doing those. My name is Bryce Biddy. Let's get started. So the first thing I wanted to talk about were the different types of internships that are out there. Obviously, we have our traditional internships that go along with usually happening in the summer term. So these can be paid or unpaid. A lot of times students are familiar with this process, but if you're not, the traditional internship is just a single term work agreement between the company or student. And typically this is done while the student either continues to take classes or is on break from classes during the summer. So the other type of internship is a cooperative internship. And this happens while students are not in school. So a lot of times, for example, engineering students or students in STEM fields will take time off of school and go through a 3 to 12 month process that allows them to get full-time work experience instead of being in their classes. Now, this is something that a student will typically have to schedule on their own, but this is a great way for you to get practical experience to understand really what it looks like to work in the field, work 8 to 5 with a company, and get really, really good experience for your resume. So we'll dig a little bit more into those, but just what internships are in general as we go along. So why should you look to internship to intern in the first place? So the biggest thing that you can get from an intern that people are familiar with is gaining valuable experience, increasing your marketability, and developing new skills and refining other ones. But something that a lot of people don't think about is that an internship is a great way to trial run your career for the future. So for example, when I was an undergrad, I knew that I was very interested in marketing, but I also knew that a big part of marketing was the sales side of things. And so until I had a sales internship, I never knew that was something I would be interested in. And so I got the opportunity to try out sales. I didn't like it very much, and I was able to alter my career field before I actually graduated and got stuck in a job that I was not as interested in. So this is a great way to do that. On top of that, you get to meet and work with new professionals and build your professional network. We always talk about it's not all just what you know, but also who you know. And so this is a great way to start having real contacts in the fields that you are interested in when going forward. Another reason why you should be looking to intern before you graduate is that the transition time for students before they find a job after graduation is typically shorter for interns. So you can see here that typically an internship transition is about 2.5 months after graduation, whereas someone with no internship can average about 6.5 months before they actually find their job. And also people with internships a lot of times can bargain for higher salary when they start. So they average on higher $6,000 than non-interns with their salaries, because they're able to show that they have more experience and employers can trust them more as they go along. So these are just some quick stats that we're going to go through in terms of why you should intern. The biggest thing that I like to highlight from this is that 40% of employers found interns from career fairs, and that's a big thing that we typically offer at the University of Mississippi. Our career fairs, we typically have about 4 to 5 a semester, so make sure that you're attending those. It's the one time that employers actually come to you, whether it be virtually or in person. They're actually coming to you and looking for interns to work for their company. And usually we have to go to them and apply and beg for positions. So make sure to be going to career fairs, because it's a great way to continually be connected. So we're going to go a little bit through the process of what it looks like to search for internships. I know that this looks different for everybody, but I'm going to hopefully try and break it down a little bit step by step. And we'll actually show you a few different ways that you can actually look for them online. So we're going to go through that whole process. So step one, the biggest thing you can do is reflect on what you want. So a lot of people know, hey, I'm a marketing major. I need a marketing internship, but you don't know anything past that. So do you have a summer job and you need to work only part-time to maintain the job that you already had? Or do you have the ability to work full-time, or do you have to take classes in the summer to catch up? When do you get to have your internship? When's the best time for you to have it? Think about if you can have a paid or unpaid internship. So do you have to make some money to save up, or are you actually able to, work unpaid and open up your options? If you're going to work unpaid, where are you going to live? If you have to travel, how are you going to pay for that? Think about all those things. Do you want to stay close to where you are with some of your connections, or do you want to move out and try new experiences in a different state? Think about what state you're interested in. And a lot of those things can really narrow down your search or make your search more fruitful. So it might be helpful to make a list before you get started of just all these different areas that you're interested in so that you can go forward and be more intentional with your search. So step 2 is actually to look for internships. And you'll see on this list a lot of great resources for you to find internships and go forth. So Handshake is a wonderful place. We also have another video out on our website about how to create a Handshake account. Never heard of it before, but I'm actually going to show you how to search for jobs on Handshake here in just a second. It's a wonderful, wonderful resource. I think it's just a great all-in-one encompassing resource, and Vault and Going Global are also offered to us through Handshake. It's just a lot of very helpful articles and different ways to stay as professional as possible. So Google, internships.com, Simply Hired, Indeed, different places like that are all going to be really, really good ways to search for internships as long as you're intentional with your search, and we'll talk about that as well. So what I'm actually going to do now is move over to Handshake, and we'll look a little bit at how to go forth and search for jobs on Handshake. So what you'll see here is I've pulled up my Handshake homepage. When you log in, it will look something like this. If you've been on this before, if you've been on Handshake before, you'll be familiar with this. So I use Handshake for a lot of different things. You can use it for the events tab to see what we're doing in the Career Center through this semester. But right now we're going to focus on the Jobs tab. You can access that either by searching or just hitting the Jobs tab up here. And so it's going to take us to our job search area. I'm just going to continually use marketing. That was my undergraduate degree, so I'm just going to reference that, but this works for any degree under the sun. So I'm going to search marketing. Sorry about that. And so what this does is it is going to pull up everything that involves the word marketing on the website as we go forward. So I know that I'm looking for a marketing internship. So I'm going to come here and I am going to narrow it down to the internship portion of this search. And you'll see there's still a lot of different options to work through, 778. So I'm going to filter this down even more and do paid roles only, because everybody likes making money, right? And you can go through a lot more filters if you want it to be incredibly specific. You can do that as well. But I'm just going to do this for now. You hit see jobs at the bottom, and you can also narrow down by locations as well. So if I'm interested in a marketing place in Atlanta, for example, and I can search that. So I've looked for paid roles in marketing in Atlanta. I have 32 jobs to look through, and I can just start going through and looking at the different options. So marketing and sales internship for the Textile Rental Services Association. If that's something that's interested to me and I don't have a lot of time to look at it, I can hit the star up here and it will be saved in my favorite jobs, so I can go back and look at it in the future. But everything's really here on Handshake. You can look at, exactly what's going to be required. So it's paid. It tells you about the specifics of your program and what the compensation is. You can learn a lot about this. Another great function of Handshake is that I don't know anything about the Textile Rental Services Association, so I can learn more about their company here, or it links me to their website. It also tells me when application is closed, so I can hit the Apply Externally button, and this will pull up the option for me to attach my resume to answer these questions, and then go to the external application, which will take me to their website. So I just love that Handshake has everything all together on one site, so that I'm able to go forth from there. So that's typically how I start on Handshake. I just always begin there because I think it's a great foundational piece. And so I know that if I can't find anything there, that's okay. There's still the rest of the internet out there, but it's a wonderful place to begin. I want to show another function on LinkedIn as well. And so on LinkedIn, obviously, we use this as more of a professional networking site, but there's a lot that you can learn from the site when you're looking for internships. So what I do when I log into my homepage here, I go up here and I search the University of Mississippi. I've already searched it recently. And as the page comes up, what I can do here is I can go to the Alumni tab. So as I go to the Alumni tab, it shows me that there were 80,000 current alumni that are registered as Ole Miss students or former Ole Miss students on LinkedIn. So I can narrow these down by a bunch of different ways, but I'm going to search marketing because that's what I personally would be interested in, looking for internships. So I'm searching for marketing, and it's going to pull up every alumni that has something like that in their title. So it could be current marketing students that go here on LinkedIn, former marketing students. And let's say that I can also narrow down by the companies that they work for or locations. So I used Atlanta before, so I'm going to hit greater Atlanta area again, just to continue that theme. And so it narrows it down to about 1,600 people. That's still a lot. So let's say if I wanted to wade through those, I could, but I'm also very interested in the Coca-Cola company. If I wanted to work there, it says that we have 8 different alumni that work for Coca-Cola. So I can look at them as well. So I narrowed it down by Coke in Atlanta for marketing people. And so it shows me all these people who graduated from our university. And you can learn a lot by just looking at this page. So there are a lot of different options, right? You can look at maybe what path they took to get to where they are today. So for example, this gentleman here is the Vice President of Decision Science and Data Strategy. So maybe if I'm interested in that title like that, I can click on his page and see what journey he's gone on to get there. Also, I can look at, potentially messaging some of these people and seeing, hey, how did you get connected with Coca-Cola? How did you get your in? Do you have any tips? Do you have any advice? If you're bold enough, maybe able to ask if they have any internship openings for the summer or for whatever semester you're looking to work. So I think that there's just a lot you can learn just by simply looking at our alumni network. We find that Ole Miss people like to help Ole Miss people a lot. And so that's something that we constantly encourage our students to do as we go forth. So those are the 2 places that I typically begin when I am looking at using the internship search at the beginning. And so we're going to go back to the PowerPoint and look at some more strategies and more steps of going forth with the internship search. So step 3 is to gather your materials. So this is a really important part. I usually liken it to getting all your ducks in a row. So make sure that your resume, your cover letter, your references, your transcripts, letters of rec, anything like that are all ready to go. We critique all these things for free in the Career Center all the time. So feel free to reach out or have somebody else look over them, but just make sure that all those things are up to date. So getting your resume and cover letter up to date are really important. I know a lot of people have had to do this for certain classes in college, or maybe you had to have your resume to apply to college and you haven't updated it since. Just take a second, take an hour or 2 and work on getting your resume up to date. We also have templates of these documents on our website, on the Career Center website. So feel free to look at those templates and try and model your resume as closely to those as possible if you'd like. It's just a great way to make sure that you are making yourself as competitive as possible when you're looking for these internships. So just make sure to get all of these things in a row. Also, a quick tip with references. If you are looking to have about 3 to 5 references, make sure that they know that they are your references, because you never want somebody to be called up for a reference check and they say, hey, do you know John Smith? And they go, who? I never heard of him. Or, maybe it's a professor that has thousands of students and doesn't remember having you 2 years ago. So make sure that you check with them and that it's okay. And also that they're going to give you a good reference. You could be really well lined up for a job and then all of a sudden get a bad reference check and somebody else gets it because they just don't know if they can trust you. So just make sure that your references are well thought out. Step 4 is the best part, right? Apply for your internship. Upload all your materials. Like we said in Handshake before, it's a pretty easy process, but every site that has applications, whether it be the company website or a site like Indeed, it's all pretty simple. So just upload your materials and then follow up if necessary. And one of the biggest things with all of your application processes, keep track of when you applied so you know how long it's been, so that you know when the appropriate time to follow up is. And we'll talk about that in a second. So this is an example timeline to follow for a summer internship. And honestly, if you're looking for one for the fall or for the spring, you can just kind of set that end date. So you can set it as like you want to start in August and just go back about 8 months from there and follow the same thing. So typically for the summer, people start looking for interns about 8 months in advance before they begin their actual internship. So know that if you want a really competitive internship for the summer, you really need to start looking in August, September, and October and getting really competitive then. So maybe over the summer, we don't have as much time. That'd be a great time to update your internship in September and maybe even October. Start coming into the Career Center, getting everything critiqued, having your internship appointments or just meeting with people to have as many questions answered as you can. December through February is really the crunch time for applying for everything. So you want to be sure to reach out and apply to as many as you can, cast as wide of a net as possible, and just go forth and keep track of everything that you've applied for. We want for you to be able to apply to as many things as possible. And luckily, as Ole Miss students, we have a pretty long winter break, so that's a great time to knock out a bunch of applications. But two, we don't want students stressing out about their summer internship applications over finals. So that's a great way to do that, is get it done before February so that you don't have to worry too much about it. And then we typically leave March through May for the logistical things. So if you've got to do interviews, or if you've got to, figure out where you're going to live or sign a bunch of HR paperwork, we like to leave that for the end. If you haven't heard from people in a week or two, feel free to follow up. So my follow-up typically when I'm reaching out to people is just a nice thank you for the interview, or thank you for the opportunity to speak with you all, or thank you for allowing me to apply. That just kind of reminds people gently that you are on this planet and that you exist, because sometimes companies just won't respond to you. But this is a great sample follow-up. Dear Mr. or Mrs. So-and-so, my name is blank and I've applied for this position on this date. I'd like to inquire about the status of my application. So just kind of being forward and letting them know, your previous work experience, education, and skill set, specifically in blank, make me an exceptional fit for this company. So you're just politely reminding them that you exist, and you probably can attach your resume and cover letter again so that they don't have to search for it. It's just a great way to remind them that you're there, but also maybe better your chances of them, looking at you a second time. During your actual internship, this is just going to be a small part of our presentation, but don't be afraid to stand out. One of the biggest things that you can do is make the best impression possible. So most companies utilize internships as trial runs for full-time jobs. That's why a lot of companies are interested in juniors or seniors, because they want to have you for one summer, let you go through one more year of school, and then hire you right away if they like you. So this is a great way to show the entire time that you're there that you're going to be a successful employee in the future. After your internship, make sure you stay in touch. We talked earlier about what it looks like to start building your professional network and how it's great for college students to already have contacts in the professional world. Make sure that you maintain those. So every 2 or 3 months, or even a little, more frequent than that, reach out with an email, reach out with, a message to somebody, with however you're connected to that person. Add them on LinkedIn, send them, let them know how you're doing in school, and ask them questions, ask them how things are going at the company. The sooner you stay fresh on these people's minds, the better things are going to go for you. One, you may be able to use them as a reference in the future, and they're going to be able to know that you're still trustworthy. But two, as I mentioned about trustworthy earlier, if they're looking for new employees, you're going to be the first one on the top of their list if they can already trust who you are and how you work just from the summer before. So like I said before, the top 5 reasons that you should intern, obviously the top ones talk about adding knowledge and experience. But I think number 5 is really, really important for a lot of students, especially if you don't know what your major is going to be, or if you're unsure about your future. You get to try on your career without making a long-term commitment. So you're not going to be stuck in a job for 2 or 3 years that you don't enjoy if you've already tried out something that you don't like. So I think that's one of the best things. Or you may, like a lot of different fields in this internship, guarantees, hey, I really want to go into this specific field. So that's a great way to go forth and do that. So some of the common questions that students have, just as we're wrapping up today, students typically ask, what's a good place to look? So obviously I talked about LinkedIn, Handshake as great places to begin. But one of the biggest things that I'll do is just go to a Google search, right? If you're really intentional about where you're looking, that's perfectly fine to just start there, and it will pull up most of the sites that we talked about already. So I'm just going to keep using my marketing example. If I'm going to Google and I'm searching marketing summer internships 2020 Atlanta, right? Then I'm probably going to pull up all of the sites we talked about. Indeed's going to be on there, internships.com. Google Jobs is really good about compiling a lot of different places. There'll be LinkedIn postings on there, and just kind of creates a good job board to begin with. That's probably the most common question that I get. Other students will ask about, can we get our resumes critiqued? And like I said before, you can always do that. You can email it to our emails, which are on our Career Center website, or you can, when the offices open back up, you can bring that into our office and we can do that as well. So thank you all today for watching this video, and please let me know if you have any questions. You can email me at Bryce, BRYCE, @career.olemiss.edu, or you can find more contact information on our website. Have a good day.
Okay. Thank you to Bryce for that. Now I'm going to share my screen again with you all. So a cover letter, that's one thing that he talked about a little bit, and one thing I promised that I would talk to you all about some. We obviously, everyone has or should have a good resume after what we did for our midterm. But now here's some general advice for a cover letter. And now in the email I'm going to send you, I'm going to attach an example of a cover letter written by an ambitious young man named Elton John. So that's supposed to be a joke. But anyway, here's the deal with cover letters. It's not much different than your resume, and a lot of the rules that I talked about with the resume apply to a cover letter. First, it should be tailored to fit each job description. So when you're writing a cover letter, have the job description in front of you the whole time, so you can match the action verbs that they use in the job posting with what you write in your cover letter. Again, they all should be unique, and basically it's just a narrative version of your resume. You can provide context, you give more context to the bullet points with the action verbs that we talked about. The cover letter should be 3 parts and no more than 4 paragraphs. Right now for you guys, probably just 3 paragraphs. And here's an easy way to think about 3 parts. Sorry, having a little trouble. Okay. Part 1, the I love you. This is when you say to the person to the organization you're applying for, you introduce yourself, and you talk about why you love them. You name drop if you're, Bob Smith reached out to me and told me about this position, or, any kind of direct connection you have to the company or position. But then you make a few general positive remarks about the reputation or just the work that this organization does. So you're telling them, hey, I love you. Next part, you're saying, you need to love me. So part 2 is you love me. The body portion of the paragraphs when you want to talk about, in specificity, one of the experiences you've had in the past, and you want to kind of couch that in the form of a CAR statement. A CAR statement is a challenge, an action, a result. So right now, as I'm recording this, we're in the midst of election day, even though it was 2 days ago, election ellipsis. But here's an example of what a CAR statement would look like: a challenge, an action, and a result. Let's say I was working for a campaign and I wanted to get out the young people vote in the county, so people 18 and up. So maybe that was my job. And so that was my challenge, was to get the young people out in this, county. And so what I did, and so maybe an action I could take is I hosted a tech demo where maybe we had some local entrepreneurs talk about different apps or different software that they're using, and they could demo it. But then also I would get like my candidate to speak or sponsor the event in some way. So that would be my action. So my challenge was to get the young people out. My action was to plan that event. And then the result would be I had, 400 young people, whatever I classified as young people, attend the event. And eventually my candidate got, 70% of the young person vote in my county. So that would be the result. And the 70% would be, a very specific number. You want to be as specific as you can. So challenge, action, result. So you tell 1 to 2 brief stories in the body paragraph about why the company should love you, because you say, hey, I've met challenges and I'm action oriented and I get good results. So that's what that looks like. The third, very simple, let's talk. Remember, just like a resume, a cover letter is a tool to help you land an interview. So this is just a chance to reiterate your contact information and the position for which you're applying. Like you say something like, I look forward to talking with you more about the position in person. And you're just kind of signing off in that way. And you'll be able to see better. You'll be able to see that better in the example I give. So that concludes this video. Thank you all for reaching the end, and I hope that you will take advantage of all these Career Center resources. You give yourself an unfair advantage by developing a relationship with the Career Center at the University of Mississippi. The truth is, not many people do it. And if you can start right now, there are going to be people that are chopping at the bit to help you there. So please take advantage of them. And also use me as a resource. Take advantage of me. You want to give yourself as many unfair advantages as you can. Thanks, y'all.